Welcome to Gallery.
Me and my parties.
London for what?
London for medicine.
Medicine for what?
Medicine for coffee.
Are you sickness?
You are illness. Welcome to Gist Zone.
Alright, my name is the Eselucien Wego One. Ona nyokoko nyonyo.
Wannan labarin ma yana peji na 36.
Ita kuma babban labarin wannan jarida shine ainihin
labarin da ke gaban jarida shine ta bayyana cewa
Okwoji Ken. Eziokwu.
Nwanne m nwoke.
Ikechukwu ndikwe. Tido.
Mam. Iji wee mee ka ụbọchị na-aga n'anya ya.
Nation fún ti òwúrọ̀ yìí ibẹ̀ náà ti sọ pé àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ aláṣẹ ìpínlẹ̀ Benue pàṣẹ wípé
Ní gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀ka, ní ẹ̀ka ètò ẹ̀kọ́, ní ẹ̀ka ètò ìlera, ní ẹ̀ka ètò ààbò.
Nigeria, Republic of Niger to renew onslaught against terrorism.
We have to also define a new strategy to be able to address this threat that is now growing.
Federal government sets up panel to investigate Abuja Stadium vandalism.
Financial burden on house rent in the FCT for public hearing.
This bill, as simple as it is a bill that will save lives of so many people. There are people who will not sleep because of payment of rent.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on revitalizing primary health care in Nigeria.
So as we speak, we hear only approximately 43% of Nigerians have access to quality primary health care services, and only about 4 doctors available per 10,000 people, which is a fraction of the minimum ratio required by the UN for basic healthcare coverage. Now, it's widely recognized that 70% of disease burden can also be prevented and managed at the primary healthcare level.
Now, Nigeria's Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanie, once said, primary health care is the foundation of the entire health system. Now, its strength is crucial to the functioning of all other levels in order to meaningfully improve quality and accessibility of healthcare in Nigeria as a whole, and that we must urgently and comprehensively reform our primary healthcare system.
And so it was for that reason that key players in the health sector last week converged on Abuja to launch a bold new program to revitalize primary healthcare in Nigeria. Now, the Federal Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, hosted the Primary Healthcare Summit.
Now, the summit was geared towards rolling out a program to transform the under-resourced and weak primary healthcare system in the country. And this is by leveraging on the private sector, international agencies, government collaboration as well.
And the summit brought together, of course, top government officials and leading private sector executives to present ambitious, or what is termed ambitious and attainable plans that will bring about tangible and large-scale changes to our primary healthcare system by the year 2030. Of course, that should coincide with the 2030 Development Agenda goals. Now, the program has the theme, Reimagining Primary Healthcare System, is solutions-focused and dedicated to delivering improved primary healthcare services across the country.
Now, the COVID-19 pandemic has also exposed global inequalities in health facilities and access to health care, making it obvious that the healthcare system in Nigeria needs revitalization, and also the need to reposition the primary healthcare as the backbone of the healthcare system.
Indeed, and to achieve that, a 10-year primary healthcare guideline, standards and regulatory framework was launched at that primary healthcare summit, we told you, that held in Abuja. But there are questions to be asked. What are the takeaways from that summit? What are the focus? What are the provisions of the healthcare guideline? And of course, what will be the framework for implementation? Is the solution, or rather, was that summit a solution to improving access to quality healthcare in Nigeria? Considering that, Kingsley, we've had, various summits, to revitalize primary healthcare system.
None that I'm aware of, but what I do recall is that there was a time when primary healthcare was on the front burner, and it was revitalized, and if we had built on the gains of that era, perhaps we won't be where we are today. Namely, when Professor Olukoya Ransom Kuti was the Minister of Health under the Babangida administration, one of his key achievements was the revitalization of primary health care. But unfortunately, shortly after he left, on account of neglect as well as inattention, if you like, by the subnational entities, we saw a rollback on the gains that were made during that era. This is about 30 years or so ago now. We're returning to this same question, and happily so. But as you said, what is the framework for implementation?
Indeed, well, might not be summit per se, but there have been, presidential focus on primary health care. Remember in 2014?
No question about that. But you said your question was a summit. The summit is the highest gathering that you can have to discuss an issue. Yes, you've had, even before now, when you had the last Minister of Health, with whom Dr. Hanire was Minister of State. Yes, we also saw that there were the initial steps taken to say, look, let's get back to primary healthcare as a backbone of our healthcare system.
All right, so those questions, as well as others issues that may emerge, will, of course, our guest will be able to find answers, hopefully, for those questions. And that's what we have for you on today's edition of the program, Good Morning Nigeria. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak, welcoming you to another episode this 1st of April? No, Kingsley.
So what date is today? When we were children, we were warned that if you were playing the prank of April Fool, that shouldn't be beyond 12 noon. Because if you did it beyond 12 noon, then you might be arrested for a misdemeanor, and that you'll be taken to the remand center. There was a remand home somewhere on a rear street, and every little child dreaded that place. So today is the 1st of April 2022. It's often also referred to as Fool's Day. So we have no pranks to play this morning. I remember playing that prank on our colleagues here some years ago to inform them that I wasn't going to be available for the program, that I had traveled to the capital of Nasarawa, which was Lafia, and I was driving back around about quarter to 7, I was at Kefi and there was a lot of traffic. So the producer, the general manager of the station and all of us were in a panic mode. At the material time I was speaking to them, I was just around the central bank, by the way. And about 3 minutes to airtime, I strolled in and it was a lovely April Fool's Day. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
Lovely April Fool's Day, not Fool's Day. But we'll get to talk about it. Why is it termed Fool's Day? Anyway.
Well, it's for pranks, actually. I mean, it's not that it's a serious thing that fools don't go around the world at this time or on this day. I join my colleague Claire to welcome you to this edition of the program. We are broadcasting, as always, from our Abuja headquarters studios. Our complimentary segments will also come up in the course of the program. For now, here is Dennis Adegunoye, who's just wiping off his sweat and getting us to take the highlights of the news. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Kingsley and Claire. Good morning, Nigerians. Here is the morning news. Nigeria and the Republic of Niger have resolved to collaborate more effectively and remain steadfast in the renewed onslaught against insecurity, undermining efforts at achieving peace and stability in their countries and the sub-region. This came to light after a high-level engagement between President Muhammadu Buhari and his Nigerian counterpart, Mohamed Bazoum, in Abuja. The two leaders also discussed issues relating to the economic well-being of the two neighboring countries.
I want to reiterate my commendation on Sam, who, because of his support, and also what happened recently, just a couple of days ago in Kaduna, indicates that there is a change in the level of threats that we are facing, and which means that we have to also divine a new strategy to be able to address this threat that is now growing.
And I think such kind of operation is needed to ensure that the insurgents are defeated in the shores of the Lake Chad.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Bank of Industry to regard all parts of the country as its theatre of business operations. Inaugurating the bank's Tower 2 building in the central business district area of Abuja, the president said the impact of interventions by the financial institution must be felt across Nigeria.
Bank of Industry, this government extended the single-digit interest rate loans to manufacturers. In furtherance of this mandate, the Bank of Industry has disbursed over 1.4 trillion naira to over 4.2 million beneficiaries, including micro, small, medium, and large enterprises.
We want to assure you that we will work hard to achieve more impact in the industrial sector.
Unity and tolerance are crucial values needed to safeguard peace and stability in a multi-religious society like Nigeria. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said this when he received a delegation of imams, Islamic scholars, and Muslim leaders from across the country.
These leaders who have come together, who are the leaders of the various organizations and Muslim communities, have come to collaborate, to give advice, to give a lot of input. A myriad of challenges in this country, more especially, which you are all aware, the issue of insecurity. So we have come to ginger the government.
The Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar, has called on Muslims to look for the new moon of Ramadan 1443 after Hijrah on Friday, 1st of April 2022, equivalent to the 29th of Shaban. This was contained in a statement signed by the Secretary Advisory Committee on Religious Affairs, Sultan's Council of Sokoto, Yahya Muhammad Boyi. The sightings should be reported through the following telephone numbers: 0803 715 7100, 0706 741 6900, 0806 630 3077, 0803 614 9757, 0803 596 5322, and 0803 594 5903. The Federal Ministry of Transportation has denied media reports making the rounds that the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, has asked Nigerians to liaise with hospital management for treatment of the victims of the Kaduna train attack. In a statement, the Director of Press of the Ministry, Eric Ojiekwe, explained that it was a false misrepresentation, adding that the Minister said, quote, the Nigerian Railway Corporation could liaise with the hospital management and see how they could contribute to the treatment of patients. The Senate is working to ameliorate the financial burden of house rents on residents of the Federal Capital Territory. This is captured in the bill that seeks to stop advance payments of house rents, which was presented to members of the public for input.
Input to facilitate a legislative action that will alleviate the challenges posed by rent in the Federal Capital Territory.
This bill, as simple as it is a bill that will save lives of so many people. There are people who will not sleep because of payment of rent.
This model of payment is operating in some other countries, and it seems practicable if all angles to it are well considered.
The federal government has set up a panel to investigate the vandalism of the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, after Tuesday's 2022 World Cup playoff between the Super Eagles of Nigeria and the Black Stars of Ghana. Irate fans went on the rampage, destroying all within their sight after the game ended in a 1-1 draw, but put pay to the nation's aspirations to be part of the Showpeaks in Qatar later this year. Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dari, described the acts of vandalism as saddening and unacceptable. His words, Nigerians must stop destroying government property. Anyone identified to be culpable in acts of vandalism at the National Stadium will be prosecuted by the federal government. He added that while the failure to qualify is regrettable, the destruction is unacceptable and unjustified. The members of the investigative panel to look into the post-match vandalization and destruction of the Moshood Abiola Stadium, Abuja, are retired DIG Sani Usman, Chairman, Dr. Henry Nzeku, Vice Chairman, retired Navy Commodore Omatsi Alhaji Abayola, Dr. Simon Ebujiaye, Director, Federations and Elite Athletes Department of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports, Mrs. Tayo Orememe, Mr. Mitchell Obi, representative of the Director General Department of State Security. Olumide Bamiduro of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports will serve as Secretary. The terms of reference for the investigative panel will be communicated in due course. Well, those are the highlights for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Claire after this timeout. Please don't go away.
The ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction of a 1.6-kilometer-long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger bridge, Onitsha, will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
As the world advances, Samuel Adegboyega University, Ogwa, Edo State, is poised to deliver world-class education rooted in strong academic traditions. In the colleges of law, basic and applied sciences, humanities, management and social sciences, Samuel Adegboyega University is building the next generation of leaders. Hurry now for 2021-2022 undergraduate and postgraduate admissions into any of our NUC fully accredited programs. Secure admission today in one of the fastest growing private universities in Africa. Also note that the university runs diploma, JUPEB, part-time and tuition-free programs. For more information, visit www.sau.edu.ng or call 0705 079 1226. Samuel Adegboyega University, to nurture for discipline and excellence.
Contemporary times require practical skills to remain competitive and relevant in your organization. Therefore, take advantage of NTA TV College Short Proficiency courses to sharpen your professional skills. Basic Broadcast Accounting and Auditing. Date 4th April to 15th April 2022. 2 weeks. Audio Engineering Operations and Maintenance. Date 18th April to 29th April 2022. 2 weeks. The course fee for the 2-week course is 150,000 naira only. Accommodation inclusive. The venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more enquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be. Every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, welcome back to the program. It's Good Morning Nigeria on this April 1, 2020. Now let's talk business first of all. CBN to work with key financial sectors to increase access to finance towards boosting exports. We also have UK launching £35 million program to support Africa's negotiations and implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. For this and more, let's join Comfort Amodu.
The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, is a free trade area initiative that is positioned to drive industrialization, generate jobs to grow the economy of the continent. Towards leveraging the opportunity, the Central Bank of Nigeria is strengthening its collaboration with financial institutions, particularly the Bank of Industry, to make additional funds available for small business and corporate organizations towards increasing Nigerians' participation in the free trade area.
Not just development and diversification, but also ensuring that we really work very hard to restructure the base of the Nigerian economy from being an import-dependent economy to an economy that is self-sufficient, an economy that develops itself, ensure that we reduce imports and indeed effectively begin to export our produce.
To support Africa's negotiation and implementation of the AFCFTA and trade policy for the continent, The United Kingdom launched a £35 million program to facilitate trade. This followed talks with the Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat, Wamkele Mene, during his visit to London to hold conversations with the UK, a strategic partner to the trading bloc. Inevitably, the UK businesses are in for better times. It is expected that the trade bloc will remove market access barriers by creating a single continental market, hence creating easier and more cost-effective exportation of goods and services across the 54 AFCFTA member states. With Business News, Comfort Amodu.
Many thanks, Comfort, for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next, newspaper review.
Right. I hope Bayo will be here, but it will be a newspaper review in just a moment. Don't go away.
What? Bayo Atoyebe right here with us in the studio.
Hey, Bayo, are you here?
Well, I was going to say, Claire, what will you see if I say I will not review today? you just remember that today is 1st April.
Okay, we're not fooling. We're not fooling today. We are not fooling. Kingsley said
Claire.
today is
Good
no
morning,
fooling.
Kingsley.
Good morning. Good to
Nigeria.
have you with us. All right, let's quickly start with The Nation. And The Nation has as its lead story, fears mount over 136 people on attacked Abuja Kaduna train. Fears mount over 136 people on attacked Abuja Kaduna train. Now, there are quite a number of riders. They can't be contacted, says NRC. Terrorists phone 5 hostages' families. Angry reps pass vote of no confidence in security chiefs, and police defuse IED at train station. Panic in FCT, Kaduna Abuja Road. And just a bit above the nameplate, how 223 billion naira US consulate in Lagos will lift Nigerians. Cash jobs to be pumped into economy. And just above the nameplate, gunmen abduct customs official, 9 others in Kaduna. It's on page 6. RFI, it's time to bomb bandits out of existence. It's on page 28. Kano Water Resources Commissioner Wali quits, and ex-NNPC GMD Yakubu cleared of laundering $9.8 million. Okay, Kingsley.
All right, we also take a look at leadership on Friday. And below the nameplate, you also have that story. Alleged $9.8 million fraud, court frees ex-NNPC GMD Yakubu. Reps adjourn plenary over incessant killings. And 2023 presidency, that's the kicker. Northern PDP aspirants intensify plan to produce next president. Tambuwal, Bala, Saraki, Hayatuddin take consensus campaign to IBB in Minna. Nigeria's unity and progress more important, says ex-military president. And then you have a number of points there at issue. So those ones further highlight the issues in the story. We can't complete Ajaokuta plant before leaving in 2023. That's according to the federal government. Blames failure on Russian-Ukraine crisis. There was also the issue of the COVID-19, according to the Honorable Minister of Mines and Steel Development. President Muhammadu Buhari backs Africa Road Builders Award for infrastructure. And troops kill 34 terrorists and 45 others die in Boko Haram ISWAP clash. Ayo.
Thank you, Kingsley. Let's start with the story that Claire read about panic in FCT and concern on Abuja Kaduna Highway. The Kaduna State government has refuted claims that bandits on Thursday barricaded Kaduna Abuja Highway. The Commissioner for Internal Security, Samuel Arwan, says that there was nothing like that. the panic was being spread on social media over bandits barricading the Abuja-Kaduna highway. He says Kaduna state government said there was nothing like that, and along the highway, adding that the bandits are currently under military attack. However, the Nigerian Railway Corporation has also given an update. It says that after establishing a desk and trying to make contact with passengers on the ill-fated train, Nigerian Railway Corporation says that it has succeeded in establishing contact with 136 of the 362 passengers. The managing director of the Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Ohiria, says that the Kaduna-Abuja train has a desk established for it, and the contacts have revealed that only 136 of the 362 passengers have so far been contacted. Aside from that, they have also succeeded in reaching out to 126 of the passengers. 7 persons also called in to say they bought ticket for some persons, but they have not been able to get in touch with them. Asked about the reports that there were 970 persons on the train, the managing director says that the Abuja-Kaduna train is run by e-ticketing, which means that there is a registration for the persons, and the 362 that are reported were the 362 that boarded the train. So far,
the managing director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Engineer Fidet Ohiria, was our guest on Good Morning Nigeria yesterday, when we again returned to the subject matter of the terrorist attack on the Abuja-Kaduna service. He sat where you are sitting now and gave out all of those details, and we are hoping that there will be good news concerning those who were abducted by the terrorists. These are not just kidnappers, because if you consider their mode of operation. We also had an eyewitness who spoke to us from his hospital bed in Kaduna yesterday. He's in fact the Commissioner for Health in Katsina State. He had an injury on his...
he lost some of his...
He was shot in his foot, and he's lucky to be alive because the bullet also pierced the body of a lady who was beside him, and the lady, of course, passed away. So it's a very traumatizing season that we are in, and it's understandable that the House of Reps has adjourned over the incessant killings, has adjourned plenary. But something else I would like to draw attention to, before you return to other stories. We have seen, of course, the mobilization of various resources by the Nigerian government, intelligence and the military and paramilitary have all been mobilized. And I think that this is the way to go, because when you have an incident of this nature, it's a challenge to the Nigerian state. It is a direct challenge to the Nigerian state, and that is when you show your muscle.
And all hands
must be on deck to say that we're not going to jeopardize, of course, the search and rescue of the kidnapped persons, but for the terrorists who carried out these incidents, they must be brought to justice. And of course, if they do resist in the course of seeking to bring them to justice because they are equally armed, the services know what to do by neutralizing them. But an assault and an insult to the Nigerian state must not be taken lightly.
Yes, this was reflected in the debate at the House of Representatives yesterday. And a member rose to say that during the debate, are we saying that the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Police, DSS, with all their training, international training, peacekeeping experiences, and they are rating around the world, are not able to take on ragtag army of 16 to 17-year-old boys, bandits, who are holding the whole nation to ransom.
To ransom. That's a good point to raise. The other issue, I mean, Claire, you know, I've been an advocate of this. Now, I know that, but if you have time, I'm sure you'll come back to the story about panic in Abuja. Some bandits were said to have ransacked Kubwa, I believe. Yes, ransacked some neighborhood in Kubwa and Buari. Now, I've always raised this to say, look, how do we manage, say, the police personnel that we have right now? There are over 100,000, some estimates say between 120 and 150,000 of Nigerian police officers are on so-called VIP or other protection duties.
At the last count,
yes,
when the population of the Nigerian police was put at 300,000,
yes,
have 50%, about 150,000,
yes,
were said to be on such duties.
On such duties. By a good point. Now, the question therefore would be, when we are having a situation such as we have now on our hands, you ask yourself, in most Nigerian cities, how many police officers do you find on beat patrols? So, if you cannot recall your officers and men, including the anti-riot police, where do you find so-called mobile policemen these days? Because they're actually anti-riot squad, but we call them generally mobile. Where do you find them? You see them in starched uniforms doing VIP protection duties. So one way to begin to tackle this is to say, fine, reduce the strength of those on VIP duties by 50%, and let us have more police presence on our roads, on our streets, in our neighborhoods. And then those, of course, who need to gather intelligence, because the police also have their intelligence unit, can't gather their intelligence, and then put these criminals and terrorists to sleep whenever the time and the occasion arises.
Yes, you're not alone, of course, on this advocacy. There are a lot of people who have also raised this issue. Probably it's in the pipeline.
Well, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has enjoined Nigerians not to vote for presidential aspirants, lying that some persons bought forms for them. He was speaking at a colloquium in Lagos yesterday, and he said they are paying 40 million. Some said it is youth who bought the form for them. In fact, anybody who will come out to tell you such a lie, you should not vote for him. The question is, which youth gathered 40 million to buy form for him? And he ended by saying that he summed up Nigeria's critical problem, which he says is singularly that of leadership. Meanwhile, the Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs has enjoined Muslims to be on the lookout for the crescent of the Ramadan, which, if cited, will usher in Ramadan fast. Director of Administration Zubairu Usman Ugu, in a statement, called on all to look out by Friday, by today's evening, and if the sun is sighted, it will usher in the month of Ramadan. And formally, the Sultan will be notified to make formal announcement. Augustine de Guavon has stepped down as technical advisor of the Super Eagles. This is sequel to the Super Eagles losing to the Black Star of Ghana in the quest to be at Qatar 2022. The Nigeria Football Federation has withdrawn the 2.5 years contract offered the coaches and technical crew. The NFA has thanked them all for their services to the nation. A new crew is to be announced after proper review. Yes,
well, so that's
yellow. That's the one. It's amber. It's not red. It's amber. It's not red yet.
It's red. But this gets story. I'm just going to end this.
What you showed. Let's be frank. It's get ready to stop. Not at stop.
Okay. Next time I'm going to bring a red.
Then that means I leave this.
You should not leave this. But here is a big story, and you can find that story on the back page of The Nation. Don't say I told you. It says, World Cup qualifiers, Nigeria versus Ghana match to be replayed.
That must be a big hoax.
Please, you need to go
to April Fool.
You need to.
Oh, today is 1st April.
Today is 1st of April. That's April Fool. That's a big joke.
All right,
that got you. All right, bye.
Okay, we'll be right back.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the state.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively with Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC.
We have unveiled the 622 as a toll-free line through which consumers can be able to lodge their complaints. And we have introduced the 112 as a national emergency number.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Candidates who are interested in gaining admission into NTA Television College Jos for the 2021-2022 two-year National Innovation Diploma Program are to apply for admission through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM. The courses available for application include film and television production, broadcast journalism, and television engineering technology. Such candidates must have a minimum of 5 O-level credits in relevant subjects including English language and mathematics. For more information, please contact NTA Television College, Jos, or the marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. Registrar, Announcer. As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within, and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We're live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. As a prompt for our conversation on the revitalization of primary health care in Nigeria, let's listen to this background put together by our correspondent, Ekene Undulwe.
Globally, health is recognized as a human right, and everyone, irrespective of location or socio-economic status, has a right to healthcare at their point of need. At the center of providing these health needs is the primary healthcare system. In Nigeria, primary healthcare services are delivered by primary healthcare centers, basic health clinics, and comprehensive health centers, with over 30,000 of these facilities spread across 9,565 wards in 774 local government areas, with oversight by the local government authorities. Majority of these facilities are in the rural, underserved, and hard-to-reach areas to ensure improved equity and access to health services. Over the years, the National Primary Health Development Agency, responsible for PHC development and implementation in Nigeria, has implemented noteworthy policies and programs, including the establishment of National and State Emergency Routine Immunization Coordination Center, quarterly primary healthcare planning and reviews, the primary healthcare under one roof program, biannual maternal, newborn and child health weeks, and the midwife service schemes, among others. Despite all past efforts, implementation of PHC in Nigeria has been plagued by several challenges, such as poor governance, inadequate financing, poor human resources for health, and underutilization of the PHC facilities by individuals and communities. To change this narrative, a 10-year primary healthcare guideline, standards and regulatory framework was launched at the recently concluded Primary Healthcare Summit in Abuja.
No matter how robust we want a health system to be, it can only be as strong as our primary health system. Because of the preventive focus of primary healthcare, any investment in healthcare is a wise investment in the social and economic well-being of society. I think it's appropriate that we should reflect on the state of primary healthcare in Nigeria.
Revitalizing primary healthcare centers is central to this initiative and is key to Mr. President's health agenda and also the Ministry of Health's effort to reposition PHCs to deliver quality healthcare service irrespective of the location.
At the Nigerian Governors Forum, we remain committed to working with the Federal Ministry of Health, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, and our partners to achieve our health goals.
The 2022 Primary Healthcare Summit with the theme Reimaging PHC in Nigeria has come and gone with high expectations from Nigerians. What are the fallouts from the summit? How soon will Nigerians see a revitalized primary health care? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria shall be speaking on the issues in a moment.
All right, and joining us live in the studio to reimagine primary health care, let me quickly introduce Dr. Orushewemi Ogbe, who is the Technical Coordinator, Primary Healthcare Summit 2022. He's also Chief Medical Officer at the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Good morning, Nigerians.
Also joining in our conversation, Dr. Iwo Tendeyo. He's immediate past Acting Executive Secretary, FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure here too. Greetings to everybody.
Okay, and a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Dr. Isaac Abuja, Public Health Specialist. Dr. Abuja, delight to have you this morning.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Okay. And also joining us for today's conversation via Zoom from Bauchi State, Dr. Rewanu Mohammed is currently the chairman of the Abuja State Primary Healthcare Development Agency. He is also a former executive secretary of the FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Dr. Rewanu Mohammed, pleasure to have you this morning.
Good morning, NTA. Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, very clear and sharp Zoom. We hope that it will persist throughout our conversation. Now let's begin with Dr. Ogbe, who was the technical coordinator of the Primary Healthcare Summit 2022. The Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Anire, who features on Good Morning Nigeria from time to time, had hinted at the summit and the desire of the Nigerian government to be sure that primary health care is brought one more time on the front burner, and it stays there and it succeeds. Did the summit succeed?
I think from both from the social media, the mainstream media, and from comments from participants, all the feedback we have gotten is that the summit was a huge success, and it calling us to the challenge of ensuring that the success yielded the desired results. I would say it that way because I mean it to be self-serving if I said yes, we organized the summit at the MPACD and it succeeded. But this is the feedback we've gotten from all participants. So I can say with a resounding yes on behalf of the Honorable Minister and the ED-MPACD that yes, the summit was a success. It met our expectations, and we are now on the journey of what comes after the summit, because the summit was a kickstart. It was not the end point of the plan to reimagine primary health care in Nigeria.
What are the parameters for evaluating the success? If you say so, yes.
So the first thing was the huge participation. We anticipated a summit of 1,000 persons, and we made efforts to invite even less than that with letters, while there was opportunity for others to join online. But we had well over 3,000 persons attending the summit. Over online participants were over 1,000 at the various days from both internally in Nigeria and abroad. And every personality that was invited to the summit was very happy and honored it. Then also we got the commitments we're expecting, particularly from the private sector, and other aspects of our donors and partners also came through at the summit, which gives us the legitimate platform to continue to pressure and follow up with them to see that those commitments are met. And it serves as a take-off point for us to get additional commitments from the private sector and our partners to actually implement the journey of reimagining primary healthcare in Nigeria. So within these parameters, we think that this summit was quite a resounding success, particularly with the presence of His Excellency, the Vice President, who declared the summit open and further reinstated the commitment of the federal government to reimagining primary healthcare as the basis for improving health for all Nigerians.
Good. In addition to what you've just said about participation, could you break it down? At the governmental level, what did we find in terms of those who came? Federal, state, and local governments, if any? Yes,
so we had from the federal government, we had virtually the full of all participants at the federal level, from the National Primary Health Agency, from the Federal Ministry of Health, led by the Honorable Minister himself, from the other parastatals of the Federal Ministry of Health, from the National Health Insurance Scheme, the Executive Secretary was present, and other parastatals. At the state level, we had the Executive Secretaries of the Primary Healthcare Boards and the Honorable Commissioners of Health. I think virtually all of them were there. I didn't do it by the health count, but we cited well over 20, 30 of them present. We had the traditional leaders from across the country. We invited the heads of the Traditional Leaders Council for every state in Nigeria, and they were present. And we are led by the Sultan himself. His Eminence was present. The Khan President was present. At the local government level, we had directors of primary health care present, and we also had Argon representing the local governments present. The only restriction was just how large could we go, and also to be able to ensure that people had the financing to attend the summit.
Okay, I hear that Dr. Rewanu and of course Dr. Iwot attended the summit as well. Dr. Boja, I don't know if you also attended the summit, but let me just put you on hold and take my question to Dr. Iwot and Dario. Dr. Ugo has just told us, about the success of the summit in terms of the expectations, the human expectations and the commitments. But in terms of policy thrust, what exactly did the summit seek to achieve? And was there an outcome?
Thank you so much. I was there in that summit, and I would appreciate the leadership of the NPSCDA for putting that up, and the Federal Ministry of Health, and all the partners that supported that. Yes, primary health care should be situated the way it should be, and we are looking at the medical social movement, that you and I are part of the system. We are the primary health care itself. So we should remember that we cannot separate ourselves from primary health care. It is a democracy of health for the people, by the people, and of the people. And by the time you take yourself out, then you are looking at government doing everything. So what have you brought to the table? What resource do you have? Human, financial, material, that you put on the table at every stage of your development. You can sustain it. Yes, policy trust has to be more open. Of all the health subsectors, the primary healthcare subsector of health has the greatest number of standards and guidelines. It is well organized that if we can ponder, you just wait for a while and look at it properly, we have no problems implementing primary healthcare, particularly looking at the tripod of equity, community participation, and of course intersectoral collaboration, which was very much highlighted during the summit. So I want to say by and large that reimagining primary health care is just like saying that you are rejuvenating, you are going back to 1978 Amata. It is a scheme that must be implemented by all government, community, other sectors. And I want to also quickly add that if you look at the National Health Act 2014 as amended, National Health System clearly states how the community will be involved in primary health care. You see the village health committee, you see the ward health committee, and these are part of the primary health care. But have we realized all these ones? These were all highlighted during the summit, and I would want us to take up the challenge and not look at it as government cannot drive it. It's a very expensive healthcare system, but cost effective. And if it is done properly with the intersectoral collaboration and with equity and people looking at community participation as being central, then you and I will know that it's not just sitting down to say, oh, primary health care is not working. Primary health care is working. 40% of primary health care is institution-based. 60% is community-based. So why are we over happy on building structures and the community linkages are not happening? I mean, so the policies have got to go back to 1978. It is still as valid as it were many years back. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Iwo. Let's bring in now Dr. Rilwanu Mohammed, who is with us via Zoom. Dr. Rilwanu, we understand you were also a participant at the summit. My question is the outcome of the summit potentially a game changer in repositioning Nigeria's primary health care?
Thank you very much. We are actually happy with the way and the process in which the Honorable Minister of Health himself, Dr. President Shaibu, the Executive Director and the Chief Executive of Primary Healthcare, handled the situation, because we had a lot of a lot of problems in primary healthcare. It is human resources out there, some places. The infrastructure also lacking. We have a problem of even the what do you call it, the facilities, the drugs. Most of the things that we think about are not actually right in place. So the summit came at the right place to look at those things and put an agenda. We have a 10-year plan and 4 strategic plan for action, and that is the way out to involve all the private sector. I was so happy that the government alone cannot carry out the reconstruction and revitalization of primary health care. So the private sector came into being, and some of the private sector, they adopt primary health care centers at the PSC level, at the community level, and in the state, particularly the alleged Dangote, adopted about 444 PSCs in Kano, and another person adopted one in Rivers. I don't know why nobody adopted the one in Bauchi. So I think this is a way out actually to support. The government cannot carry out the building and revitalization of primary care alone. What of Imo State? Nobody comes out from that. I think the private sector should come to support. The idea is that they should join hands together with the provision of support from the Basic Care Provision Fund, support of our partners. I think we are going to make it, and I was so happy that even the traditional rulers are putting their weight to make sure that we revitalize and rejuvenate primary health care centers so that access and service delivery will improve in primary health care. Now, some of our primary care centers are just mere clinics. People don't go there because they had to go to first contact of care is supposed to be primary health care, but they go to general hospital and teaching hospital, because one thing that we are lacking, and the most important thing, is lack of human resource. And one thing that we must do is to make sure that the government at all level, the governors forum must provide, and the local government level must provide human resources at the facility. The federal government cannot provide human resource at each facility in our local government primary health care center. So this is actually the state activity and the local government. Without the person carrying out the work will not be done well. And the 4-point agenda, which must emphasize on, number 1 is actually on assets and service delivery. Number 2 is on efficient program delivery. Number 3 is on ensure right enough efficient program delivery. Number 4 is on health promotion and demand stimulation. Number 5 is ensure right enablers are in place. We are so happy that the private sector, we are encouraging all the private sector, particularly the well-to-do in your own state, to please, like the Dangote has done for Kano, and we are encouraging our state people who are actually wealthy to come and adopt primary care centers in Bauchi, adopt in Kano, adopt in Lagos, adopt in Imo State, so that at least government cannot do it alone. I was so happy that the outcome of this meeting has actually, this is the first time I'm seeing a national primary care putting something in place that the outcome was so nice, but the implementation has to be done, and we have to monitor the implementation of this outcome of this meeting.
All right, Dr. Irano, thank you. The outcome we will get to see, as it begins to be implemented. But let me bring the conversation back here in the studio. Dr. Abuja, I want you to speak on the theme, reimagining primary health care. I'm wondering what exactly we are reimagining, because whenever we talk about primary health care, maybe summit or whatever, our minds go to the structure, just either refurbishing the structure, building a new structure and all that. What exactly are we reimagining?
Well, let me take us back a little bit. In the 80s, especially in 1987, when I was a youth corper, that was when the idea of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency came up. And I was one of the foot soldiers under Professor Asunkuti as a youth corper. When we put up the paper, together the papers for the establishment of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, what we had in mind at that time was that primary healthcare was going to be implemented in 4 tiers. The federal government was supposed to provide money to construct primary healthcare centers, and they were supposed to be of two categories. The comprehensive primary healthcare development, comprehensive primary healthcare center, and then the small ones, the ordinary clinics. Primary healthcare center. Then the states were supposed to provide equipment for those primary healthcare centers. The local governments were supposed to provide the personnel that will man them. The community was supposed to supplement by providing volunteers, for example, traditional health attendants. You recall that especially in the 80s, our maternal mortality rate was so bad that we thought one of the ways of bringing down the maternal mortality rate in the country was to train traditional birth attendants in our communities, so that those who cannot go to primary healthcare centers or hospitals and can deliver at home and be safely assisted by traditional birth attendants. We even trained them in their villages, provided them with birth kits, traditional birth kits that were provided by WHO and UNICEF. And the idea was, in the community, you should train people who are community health workers. You should train people who don't even go to school, like the women who know how to deliver babies, and then link them up with those who work at the primary healthcare centers. The primary healthcare centers were supposed to be linked up with cottage or small size hospitals, or what we call Nigerian hospitals. Each of our local governments has one. Those ones were supposed to be linked to the tertiary hospitals. That was the idea. Somehow down the line, I recall that as a youth corper, I went around this country training people in primary health care, training people on immunization, training people on diarrhea, control of diarrhea diseases, training people on water and sanitation, on nutrition and so on, and ordering and training people on birth processes in the villages in particular, in rural areas in particular, and training people on how to recognize risky pregnancies and referral of those risks or risk patients to higher level, in other words, to hospitals. But after some years, the traditional birth attendants seem now to fizzle out. The linkage that is supposed to be there between the community health worker, the other health workers at the local government level, the state level, and the federal government level, which are the federal medical centers and so on, have broken down. The linkages are not seen. And it was also, after some years, seen that the primary healthcare centers that were supposed to be built were hijacked by politicians. People in the National Assembly, for example, would come and say, I want two in my local government, I want one in my local government, and it was the survival of the fittest. Some people got one, some people got two, some people in different parts of government system got awards for these private healthcare centers to be built in their communities or in their local governments. But what happened? Many of them were built, but there was no equipment provided by the state. And some that were equipped, there were no complementary personnel from the local government to mind them. And after some time, the whole thing now became confused. So the idea of Imagine, in my opinion, means let's go back again, see what has gone wrong, and let's start all over again with a new zeal and a new energy, and let's revitalize primary healthcare. That's my understanding.
Well, Dr. Abuja, thank you very much. And that's also the foundation for the next question to Dr. Ogbe, who was the technical coordinator of the summit. What were the lessons that you took over from the Professor Olukoya Ransome-Kuti era, where the success of primary health care to a considerable extent was applauded around the country, to now say, fine, this will be the foundation for us to say we want to build on, or the mistakes we want to avoid in reimagining primary health care in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think the whole idea of the reimagining was really to change the current perception of primary health care. If you ask people about primary care now, or you thought about it yourself, it's one place you probably don't want to go to. If you look around the studio, I'm not sure anybody has been to a primary health care center here for a while. But the idea was that to think about it again in a manner that it becomes something appealing, where you want to go, where you want to recommend your relatives to go and give birth, and also to receive basic care. As the Dr. Isaac has just elaborated, it was a pleasure to meet him this morning. So the whole idea of the summit and reimagining primary care was to address more of the challenges that have emerged over time. The basics and the foundational principles, as laid by Professor Ransome-Kuti, may so rest in peace, remains, and that is what we are building on. But as over time, with things like population explosions, where we did not have the system also evolving to meet new and emerging needs, that was part of the challenges. But the fundamental challenge is really what we are trying to address. And on top of that, with the 4-point agenda by the Honorable Minister of Health, on top of that is the challenge of the human resource for health. The major gap that started cracking was the absence of the human resource of health in the primary care facilities and the effective linkages with the community. And these are not just related to health alone, but also other social determinants of health that tend to either pull or push people from the rural areas. So the whole agenda of the summit and the Emerging Primary Healthcare is first of all to ensure that we bring to fore the challenge of the human resource for health and put in place mechanisms to address it. And key amongst this is the midwives, because those are the ones that are actually trained to also safely ensure that women can give birth safely. Initially, the use of the traditional birth attendants was supposed to be a stopgap measure, because then was that there was nobody there, women were giving birth at home, they were going to the traditional birth attendants and in some instances religious houses, and people had to be trained to support them at that stage. But as population increases, fertility rate and birth rates increases, and also because evidence shows that really you need the skilled birth attendants to save lives. So the focus now is really ensuring that we have what we call the skilled birth attendants at the primary care center. We're advocating for at least 4, of which 2 must be trained midwives, so that I can support women to do this. For the community level, with time, with partners coming in and various programs happening across the country and within the health sector, we had a plethora of community volunteers. So what we've done now as part of the 4-point agenda, which is to stimulate demand and also ensure that people are effectively linked from the community to the facility, is to implement the CHIPS program, which is these are already taken up but need to be scaled. And these are the community health influencers, promoters, and services agents. So we have now merged all these people, all these various volunteers that are supported by our partners and by government, and the TBs that are still available and able to work, the village health workers and all of them, and having them retrained across the country and are properly kitted to manage minor illnesses within the communities, but more importantly, to give health education and to refer them, possibly hold by hand, particularly the pregnant women and children, to the facility to receive more definitive care. The second challenge, really, why we have seen from after the what we call the golden years in about 86, 88 to now about primary healthcare is the suboptimal financing of primary healthcare. During the Ransom Putin era, each local government then, I think they were 55, was given about 500,000 naira as a grant to implement primary healthcare, working with milestones. I'm not the best economist, but if we do the mathematics, I think that last time I did it a few years back, that translated to almost to 300 million naira. But about when you convert $500,000 then to naira to dollar, and now use the exchange rate today. So you can see clearly that primary health care systematically over time has become suboptimally financed. And this is really because people begin to see more visibility in financing tertiary hospitals and secondary hospitals, or just building buildings like you mentioned by the politicians for primary health care centers. Why that is important, that is not reimagining or revitalizing primary health care. It's just the smallest component in the costing we did of what government and partners and private sector needs to invest to make our primary healthcare the place we all want to go and have our healthcare services. Building the infrastructural cost is the smallest, the most minute of all that cost. The key cost drivers are the human resource for health, because you have to engage them, you have to retain them, you have to ensure they get the training, and you have to ensure that they are in place to provide those services. This calls for a wide range of incentives, but primary among this is the financial basis to be able to pay their salaries. I think we are conversant with the stories of salaries and non-payment of salaries across the country.
Okay, I want to direct my question to both Dr. Ndayo and Dr. Mohammed. But first, Dr. Riwanu Mohammed. I don't know. I have this feeling that we seem to be going back and forth, with some of our, programs, or programs for revitalizing the primary healthcare sector, because almost everything that Dr. Ogbe, talked about just now reminds me of, steps that have been taken at a time, in this country. For instance, the use of midwives. We used to have the midwives service scheme embedded in their primary health care. We also used to have people, the facilitators between the midwives and the local communities at a time. What happened to that scheme? And why are we going back to the midwives service scheme?
No, actually, the Minister of Health is thinking ahead. He has done a lot of preparation for revitalizing primary health care. He has produced a best structure for primary health care. One of the things that is actually taking people away is lack of retention of, even we send the staff, there's no accommodation, there's no facilities, no drugs. So one of the things that and there's even no water supply in the primary health care center. He produced a structure, a model structure for primary health care, which was presented in the meeting, in the conference. And that model is, there's accommodation for staff. That will help the staff to actually retain in the facility. There's no way you send somebody who wants to build his own children, his family, without any place to stay, without thinking of his primary, his school, the school that's going to send his children. So this is being taken care of if the state government will adopt that. Now, the Seattle Declaration talks about the task force meeting to look at issues at the state government level, not only federal government level, to tackle the issue head on. The task force has been done in Bauchi and all other places. And then one of the things that require that is the issue of tax shifting and tax sharing. Now, we have the midwives and the nurses who sometimes they don't want to go to the primary care center in our villages, in our ward. So, but we have our local community extension workers who can be trained, MLSS training, to convert them to be able to work in that environment where they are. So that tax shifting and tax sharing was adopted by the federal government to make them work in that environment and support their own community if the midwives will not be able to go there because of lack of accommodation and other things. Now, the enabling law to support primary care centers in all the country has been done in order to support PSC under one roof structure, which is one of the 9 pillars that must be tackle, and that was what was discussed in the conference. Another one that was discussed is the issue of the referral system. Referral has been a problem because if people have not even gone to the primary care, where are you referring the patient to? The two-way referral system has collapsed, as Dr. Isaac has mentioned, has collapsed completely. So part of the thing that we discussed and we take away home is to make sure that our referral system is being taken care of, so that people can be referred from primary to secondary, from secondary to tertiary. And then people have the right to go to tertiary. But if the primary care centers are working very fine, there's no way people will jump primary care. It's the first contact in their own community, and one PSC must be revitalized per ward. And that was the intention of the government, so that people can be able to be taken care with the issue of intended insecurity in the country. People should not be going up and down the place to get care. So primary care per ward, one facility can be will be revitalized to provide service. And then what we do with the support of the Basic Care for Aviation Fund is to engage our ad hoc staff. We engage about 220 midwives to take care of that at the one level. Then we also engage about 1,335 chiefs agents to enable demand creation from the facility. They go house to house, and their supervisors are 313. They go house to house to actually attend to pregnant mothers, talk to them about immunization, talk to them about the cleanliness of the household. They carry out blood. They do blood sample to know if the child is having fever, right? And then they do random blood they carried out the testing to know if there is a malaria. And then in their kit, there's anti-malaria agent. They have a pictoscope. They refer immediately, because there are a lot of books that are prepared for that, to refer those patients from the community to the PSC, from PSC to the general hospital or to the teacher hospital, as the case may be. So I think we need to look at this issue of referral system as one thing that will support us. And two-way referral. I was referred. My case was referred to teaching hospital in Abuja, and then there was nothing to return back, and the patient was returned back to the teaching hospital in Bauchi. We have nothing to write about. Nothing was given to me to tell that this is the treatment we have done, and then you can continue from there. I like the way national tuberculosis system is working in Bauchi. It's the only one that has two-way referral system, National Tuberculosis Control Program in Nigeria. Thanks to the Honorable Minister of Health.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rwano. I want to bring in Dr. Isaac Abuja, still on this issue of the current challenges which the summit sought to address. I've heard it repeatedly in the course of today's conversation that there is a human resource challenge. But when that human resource challenge is being defined, it appears that the focus is on midwives. I'm wondering whether first a primary health care center is supposed to be solely a maternity home. Earlier you talked about comprehensive PACs that we had in the 80s. For us to succeed in the new endeavor under the 10-year game plan, what would be the complement for the staffing of a primary health care center, whether ordinary or comprehensive? And how can we be crying that we have human resource shortage when, in the first instance, perhaps, I don't know whether we have addressed the supply of human resources. There are persons who are qualified, and you will give us the staffing position, whether nurses or doctors, who are looking for jobs but cannot get jobs. And yet we are crying that we have human resource challenge in running our PHCs. So, Dr. Abuja, time again, is a primary health care center the same as a maternity home, as it's being turned out? Two, what personnel do you require for a primary health care center? And three, why are we crying that we have human resource shortage to kickstart or even run our primary health care centers?
Okay, let me answer your first question. The idea of midwives in primary health care centers came in because of the high maternal mortality rate that we were facing. It was the call, like they say in Sunday school, come over to Macedonia and help us. because of the high rate of maternal mortality in the country, there was a need to train not only midwives but traditional birth attendants so that they will address that particular specific problem. The comprehensive primary health care center is supposed to be truly comprehensive. Comprehensive in the sense that there's supposed to be a doctor there, at least one doctor. There's supposed to be a nurse there. There's supposed to be a midwife there. There's supposed to be a community health worker there too. And let me take that now to the next question. The issue of personnel to man those comprehensive or ordinary healthcare centers. One of the reasons our colleague from Bauchi mentioned is for those people to come from their localities. In other words, if you are hiring a nurse or a midwife or even a doctor to work in a health center, let it be preferably somebody from that community. One, the person knows the community. Two, the person knows the people. And three, it is cheaper for you to maintain them and to keep them. If you have to transfer somebody from one local government to the other, or transfer somebody from one ward to another ward, you are thinking of how the person will be able to live in that place. You are talking of accommodation, you are talking of salary and so on. But when people come from their own communities, many times their salaries are not only paid in money, sometimes they are paid in kind. I know very well, in those days when people used to go with yams and foodstuff to give to doctors or nurses or midwives who deliver their wives or babies as a thank you package. And to me, that was a salary for them. Now we don't have those anymore. Before I forget, let me bring this in. The idea of sustaining primary health care was also buttressed in those days by what we call the revolving drug scheme. You recall PTF, Petroleum Trust Fund. One of the things that PTF did for us, which was great in those days, was to provide seed money to healthcare centers or to states that didn't have enough money to kickstart their system. They would use this money to buy drugs, and those drugs were supposed to be revolving. What do I mean by that? You sell the drugs to the patients, or the patients buy them at very low cost. You recover the money. You take the recovered money and order more drugs, so that when I am sick and I'm helped or treated and I leave the health center or the hospital, and you get sick and you come to the hospital or the health center, you too can be treated, because the drugs that I consume should not be the last ones in that health facility. They should be revolved, they should be continuous, they should be sustained. But sadly, we experienced over the years that the revolving drug scheme died. The essential drug list, which was almost like a holy book in the Ministry of Health, especially the Federal Ministry of Health, died. And right now, if you ask the ordinary staff in a state ministry or in the Federal Ministry of Health, what do you mean by essential drug list? Can you give me names of some of them? They will think twice before they will be able to come up with them, because it is no more in existence. Nobody is emphasizing on the essential drug list. Not that they are not essential, not that they are not needed, but because we are not sustaining them. And more importantly, this issue of revolving, sell the drugs to the patients at very low cost, recover the money, use the money to buy more drugs. What happened? Instead of the money recovered to be used to buy more drugs, I think the money probably disappeared somewhere else. And that's why the system died. And I hope that this new idea, this reimagine primary health care, we take care of this, and we make sure that every health facility, especially the primary health care facilities, are properly equipped, with equipment that will, if a woman walks in pregnant, she will be delivered safely. If she needs drugs, she will be given even before she delivers. When she goes there, if she is anemic, she should be able to be given those drugs that she needs. And when you have all that package, that's when you will be able to say, I have a health center.
Dr. Abuja, you are following to the same error from the last statement you made, yes, of equating a PHC to a maternity home. Because the example you gave now is of a pregnant woman. I'm sure that there are other examples. Let me, as the saying goes, yes, let me pull the legs of Dr. Rewano. He's from Bauchi State. The nearby state to him is Gombe. And Gombe is the headquarters of snakes in Nigeria. And people suffer from snake bites. Some of them very venomous. So a person suffers from a snake bite, and sometimes there is no immediate attention, and in the process of trying to transport the person from the point of incident to a general hospital or a tertiary hospital, we lose the patient is the victim is lost. So can a PHC say in those localities when you know the peculiarities of the infections or diseases that come around? That's why I said, we keep talking about pregnant women, so that somebody who is listening at home is that this PHC looks like it's maternity they want to spread around the entire country.
Kingsley, before Dr. Rewano answers your question, that's why there is need for this reimagined PHC to look at specifics, specific services for communities, what you call maybe tailor-made, we call custom-made. Yes, so you look at what is good for the communities. It might not be maternal issues, but maternal issues, child and maternal issues are very, very, are of great concern. If you look at the rate of maternal, mortality we are having,
yes. We're also look, you talked about maternal and child. Gentlemen, you are medical personnel, so you have a child. A child is playing, and the child has an accident. He probably puts something in his ear, puts something in his nose, or we're children now. We all know you are riding a bicycle and then you fall and you have a nasty peel and how do you treat it? In those days when we played football, God saved us a number of occasions. God saved us on a number of occasions. You will just take sand and rub on it, not knowing that, you were playing with tetanus. Yeah, so Dr. Ndayo, let's hear your comment on this. So that we say, children, you have all kinds of things. If you injuries and so, burns, you're playing with hot water or play with fire.
Thank you very much. I think I should come in like this. You are sounding rude, but I want to appreciate Dr. Felix for his contribution, that there has been a disconnect between the community and government in the management of primary health care, and that is our problem. So let us look at 4 issues here. Leadership and governance. That the community managerial structure for primary health care is non-existent. The National Health Act has spelled it out. In 1988-87, when we had the neighborhood division of the Department of Primary Health Care in Federal Ministry of Health, there was deliberate attempt and efforts were made to have the family health cards, number of houses, clustering of communities around primary care facilities, and then establishing the 2-way referrals. 2, the minimum service package. Every state in this country is expected to have a costly minimum service package and investment plan for primary health care. There is support for National Priority Development Agency for this for 36 states and FCT. This will give you strategic locations for your facilities. This will define the service scope. This will also give you the costing of what a state requires in a first approach to professionalize primary health care with the participation of the community. 3, there is need that we disabuse our minds about primary health care being institution-based and health personnel driven. As following to my first observation, that primary health care is a system that both government and community can afford to sustain at every stage of their development. So, for instance, the thought of snake bite, the essential drug list for that kind of place will include that. The prevailing local diseases. We are talking about prevention, promotion, curative, and rehabilitation in primary health care. So all the things that you are looking for, if you prevent, you don't even need secondary care, you don't need referrals, instead those ones that are already there. After doing those ones, nobody will be falling sick again and requiring tertiary institution care. So primary health care is the key to all this. Then number 4, you cannot build a world health system without having the village health system. We in this country, we run around the state forming World Health Committee, or they call it World Development Committee, but the law calls it World Health Committee. That is the nomenclature. You go about forming that without a village health committees that are supposed to fit into that and allow a robust community managerial structure to drive primary health care in each community or in each ward. So having said this, it is good that we enlighten people more about primary health care scheme, that it is not government driven. It is a medical movement that involves the community, sectors, public and private, and government. You and I, we are part of that. So identify the local diseases, prevention of local diseases, one of the 8 components, minimum 8 components of primary health care. Though in this country we have added 3 more, mental health and oral hygiene and eye care. I think those ones are being developed to be added to the minimum 8. If you see the minimum 8 components of primary health care, any country should enforce or should roll out. You will see that they are not all clinic based. 60% are community based, and you must go out to the community, engage them, and let them participate. Build their capacity. In fact, the members of the committees are trained, and they develop their plans, and they participate, and they are registered as community-based organizations. And you empower them, and they are part of the system. It is when you don't do this that primary health care becomes difficult and cumbersome, and government is suffering. And you see that strategies but from government cannot work because the communities are not participating. So primary health care is not about deliveries and self-deliveries and child care. It deals with local endemic diseases, prevention, promotion of health, curative, and then rehabilitation in a 2-way referral framework. So if we can put this across, you now know that there are very few states, if any, doing primary health care in this country. I want to challenge us that reimagining of primary health care should be to establish the community managerial structure, to bring in community apart from the organized private sector and corporate organizations. Let the communities, the common man and the common woman in the community be organized into committees, and let them bring their resources for ownership.
Dr. Iwat, thank you. Thank you for your explanation. And I know Dr. Ogbe and Dr. Mohammed would like to say 1 or 2 things about this, but that will be when we come back from our break. But just to add that the maternal mortality rate for Nigeria, I know that the primary health care agency is, of course, one of the outcomes is to, get more resources, human resources. And out of those resources, we have midwives. Now, the need for more midwives is because the maternal mortality rate for Nigeria is very high. And according to the WHO 2020, I don't know what the present rate is, we are having over 800 women out of every 100,000 live births dying from pregnancy complications. 1 in 22 pregnant women in Nigeria is likely to die from pregnancy complications. So these are quite high, rates. And I think this, is a good reason for even focusing more on, employing more midwives. I don't know, Dr. Ogbe, maybe when we come back from this break, you provide more explanation to that. Let's go on a short break right now.
157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State.
The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportation. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
Do you run a breast or cervical cancer service? Are you a private or public laboratory, clinic or hospital that offer any of breast imaging, cervical cancer screening, HPV vaccination, or other breast or cervical cancer services? Is your service a primary, secondary, or tertiary center located in any part of Nigeria, no matter how remotely located it is? If yes to any of these questions, then subscribe to the OCI Foundation's Save Breast app and become accessible and visible to millions of Nigerians. It is all for free. To subscribe, just type the Save Breast application form on Google or go to the OCI Foundation's page on www.ocifoundation.org and search for Save Breast application form. Complete the form and submit, and let millions of Nigerians patronize you, all for free. Become part of the OCI Foundation's quest to tackle breast and cervical cancers in Nigeria. And join us to rise by lifting others.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The counsel of our fathers.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and it's live on the network service. Very interesting conversation, and we're looking at reimagining primary health care. Earlier on, well, we're having a conversation on, of course, what should constitute the focus or the outcome of the new primary health care. And I was trying to explain the preponderance of the use of midwives and why midwives should be employed more. All right. So you have an explanation. Dr. Ndayo, you have an explanation. Dr. Ndayo, let's take you first.
Yeah, we are looking at the data, and we are looking at vulnerability that most of our women, or young girls and women going into pregnancy are already coming from a position of weakness in terms of health status, parasites, low blood and everything. So the frequency of losing a pregnant woman or women during pregnancy and other things following pregnancy is very high. And so having looking at that is a cross-cutting issue across communities in the country. So having midwives as core staff needs for a primary health care facility is very critical. So you are looking at the minimum staffing for a primary health care facility, be it a primary care center, primary care clinic, or the health post, which is about the current nomenclature for primary care facilities in the country. And the staffing, minimum staffing is very clear. And you have got to look for midwives, not only midwives, but those that have been trained on emergency obstetric care. So you have got to show evidence that in the past six months to 1 year, you have had that kind of training. So we have 20 midwives here, and only 2 have been trained on obstetric care. And you're asking me how many midwives you have. I'll tell you that I'm having 2, because those are the ones that can take action quickly and address the issue of maternal deaths. So we are focusing on that based on this, and I appreciate the issues of having to also generate staffing from non-health workers, community-based attendants, but there were issues with those ones because we were not having the real traditional based attendants come on. You were having traditional chiefs bringing on their wives, their young wives to serve as traditional based attendants. We have no idea of what is going on there, and the program started, going down there, and it was discouraged by WHO that those kind of people, instead of helping us, are causing more havoc to the system. So I think the country is also having a programming that midwives that are just graduated should be sent in for 1 year or 2 years compulsory community midwifery experience, and they are posted to underserved communities, and that program is also helping. It's organized by the MPSCDA and it's across the 26 states and FCT, and we also have this cadre of midwives, community midwives, and public health nurses that were also trained some time ago. I think the health technologies are no more bringing forward this. So we need this cadre once more.
Dr. Ndayo, don't fall into Kingsley's trap. Okay. You are speaking. Yes. Yeah. So let Dr. Iwado Mohammed, answer. Kingsley asked the question, earlier on. Dr. Mohammed, you're with us now.
You can see why we are worried is the 20% of global death, of maternal death during labor and delivery occur in Nigeria. It's a very serious issue. So one of the take-home pay during that our conference is that there should be integration of PSC services. During the NEMTIC, National Maternal and Child Intervention Center meeting in the state and local government, it should be an integrated one. Even the SERIC, it should be, we talk about the issue of immunization, talk about the COVID-19 vaccination. Services should be integrated. We don't need vertical program like global health will just come and take malaria or HIV. Everything should be integrated so that we have a focus and we will look at the child as a whole. Now, another thing that we are talking about and that Ewart has mentioned is the minimum service package. The minimum service package at the primary health care centers is the big one, which is per ward. Then we have clinics, they are about 4 per ward. Then we have the health post, can be anywhere in the community where 1 person or 2. That should be looked at very carefully, and then staff will be managed. And then we should look at the issue of water supply, electricity. In most of our PSCs in Bauchi State, with the support of Airship, we provided them with the solar, so that the services will continue, our basin will be kept at the normal level. And it's very important that we do that. Now, one thing that we require about the issue of employment, state government should employ staff. And the Bauchi state government, just last 3 days ago, has engaged about 1,061 midwives, nurses, and other healthcare workers, laboratory assistants, and then 100 doctors has also been employed. In Adamawa, about 1,000 was employed by the governor. In Kano, they employ about almost 2,000 healthcare workers. I think that is a good way of supporting the federal government on the issue of employment, because that is a major issue in primary healthcare problem. When we don't have staff, there's no way access to healthcare. People will go to our primary healthcare centers, and that's an issue that we need to tackle. And we are happy that we want the one thing that we were looking at is that 1% amount sent for basic healthcare provision fund is not adequate. They are working towards making it 2%, so that funds should be sent to state, and then more activity at primary healthcare level, particularly procurement of drugs, ambulances, and other services, which the federal government is looking at that, so that a referral system and other activity can be done.
All All right, Dr. Rwanu Mohammed, thank you very much. A very interesting conversation we're having. Let's bring in again Dr. Ogbe for his views on this. Well, it's been explained now what a PHC should look like in terms of structure, and in terms of staffing, in terms of medical facilities and other requirements. And I was very happy that Dr. Rwanu also talked about water. Potable water and electricity. That's if we're talking about solar power in off-grid locations. Those ones could be very helpful. So that's one. But I want to ask you, Dr. Ogbe, as part of perhaps the game-changing principle under the 10-year agenda, are subnational entities now mandated to specifically budget for PHCs? And that's one. Secondly, what are the highlights of the new guidelines? Assuming this is one of them.
Okay, thank you very much. I really want to appreciate the presenters and our guests for all they've said, because one thing it did was actually to revalidate why we had to have the summit and why we need to rebrand in primary healthcare. And I think at this point in the conversation, it's time to bring it home by actually putting in focus this 4-point agenda, because it addresses everything that has been said. And the 4-point agenda, it's the agenda of the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Wahiri, which is implemented through the MPAC under leadership of Dr. Faiza Shoaib. So the point is that agenda 1 is to improve access and delivery of services through primary care revitalization. And what is that supposed to do? We are looking at where we can have one functional, I like to use the wrong English terminology of fully functional primary health care center per political ward in Nigeria. We call that ground zero. And what we mean by that is that the infrastructure is conducive. Our emphasis is not on the building, but we have in a studio now, it's well positioned, cool, lighted. If we're outside, we can't get the broadcast quality we're having. So we need that conducive environment. That is our only emphasis on infrastructure. And that it must be secure, particularly in our current situation. It must have potable water from a borehole. It must have steady electrical power, which we're propagating with solar. And it must have the right equipment and the logistics system, so that these essential drugs, which actually are still there, the Ministry of Health periodically produces the essential drug list and updates it, but it's probably not getting the right publicity that it should get. That's why Dr. Isaac felt it was not long there, but it is there, even updated to the latest drugs and technology used for primary healthcare. And then it should now have the staffing that is required to provide comprehensive and integrated services. Comprehensive is in terms of completeness, and integrated that they're given together, so that when a woman or a man comes to the center, whatever problem he has can be treated, not we treat this today and come back tomorrow. And to come out of this is also to have the referral system. So initially the thinking was that we should have ambulances everywhere. But with the launch of the National Emergency Medical Transport Scheme by the Honorable Minister of Health, the 10-year plan, which is part of this 4-point agenda, leverages that as that expands, without having to purchase, maintain, and station ambulances, there's a common system when you dial 112, where you can summon an ambulance and can do the right evacuation through the two-way referral to the designated secondary care facility. So all this is part of as part of Agenda 1. And already some of this happens in piecemeals across the country, but the idea is to scale it up. Agenda 2 is to ensure that we have this health promotion and community participation, which is a CHIPS program, linking up the communities to the facilities. Why Agenda 3, most importantly, is that of delivery, a comprehensive world minimum healthcare package of services. And the MPAC, they have supported states all across the country to develop what we call their minimum service package. And it's at that point that the package is tailored to the peculiar need for the state, and they are supported to ensure that they are able to create an investment plan over years for the state. But we found out that over time, this has been inadequate. That's why this time we decided to look differently and at the private sector. And people like Mr. Ike Morgan of the Morgan Foundation has been really driving this together with Alhaji Dangote and other prominent private sector personality. And they have agreed that they're going to invest in one of these primary healthcare centers in all ramifications, from human resource all the way to infrastructure and all that is required, in 774 local governments across Nigeria. They've already started, they've already committed to a certain number, over 100, and they are working with us and the Honorable Minister to push this to see that other private sector individuals like also take care of this. But importantly, lastly, is the enablers from information, data, using ICT and new technologies, and also importantly the financing. And this is where we want everybody, and has been supported from the Basic Provision Fund, which we are hoping to be increased, and the states to increase their commitment to funding primary care, which is their responsibility.
I have to come in here. I'm sorry, yes, but you know, it's so sweet to listen to you talk and you know, to visualize, you know, the concept of what you're saying, and it will be good to see. But the problem we've always had is, you know, in concretizing, you know, our vision, in putting it up, you know, in accessing it. And I know that at the launch of the SDGs, you know, the member countries or implementing countries were told to think global and act local. In terms of resources, you've mentioned those. Are we sourcing the funding locally? Because I hear we need, you know, about 1.4 trillion. 4 trillion. Are we going to source it locally? Yes or no before we go to the closing thoughts?
So the plan is that we start locally and then we expand globally. So the idea is that government must increase its domestic resource mobilization. We have started engaging the Federal Ministry of Finance. The Honorable Minister had interactions with her even before the summit about what government can do, particularly to create two things. One, the enabling environment for the private sector to invest, and secondly, to see that how we can drive and implement a mandatory social health insurance scheme that caters for the vulnerable and poor.
What do you mean think globally?
So no, so we're starting locally and moving globally. Okay. So but when we act this way and we're able to raise the resources we need, then we can now approach our global partners that this is how far we need to go, see where we are, and you can now come in and help us fill some of these gaps. Because with our present economic profile, we must be realistic that we need to start by ourselves, show the example, lead the way, but we should be open to accept grants, necessary grants, which we hope will be what we call disbursement-linked grants. In terms of when you meet targets, it becomes grants and not necessarily loans to help us close this gap and so that our people can have access to quality service delivery.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dr. Abuja, your closing thoughts on this very interesting conversation. Implementation, as my colleague Claire has said, it's a major challenge for us in terms of the public policy environment. What should we avoid?
Well, inconsistency is the first thing to avoid. We have to be consistent in implementing, in making sure that what we plan is implemented and is monitored. And more importantly, too, is the budgeting. Whether you're talking of staff or you're talking of equipment or you're talking of drugs, we need money. The basic line is money. And I appeal repeatedly to all our levels of healthcare system, not just federal. People are always talking of federal government. The states have a role to play. The local governments have roles to play. As now that monies for these three tiers of government is being disbursed to them directly, the federal gets its own, the state gets its own, the local government gets its own. Let each tier take some money aside for health and let the budget for health be truly comprehensive so that the services that are provided by service providers can also be comprehensive.
Thank you. Dr. Undayo, your closing thoughts briefly.
Thank you so much. There's a word of caution here that revitalizing a primary care infrastructure, particularly the facility, is not like building a general hospital. Primary health clinic is different from primary health care clinic. It has to be linked to the community. Community structure for primary health care should be developed. I want us to deliberately link the facility to the community, empower the community to bring out the resources, to be part of what is going to be done for them, and they co-manage the facility. Otherwise, we'll just be like what we have been having over the years. Government will build with partners, furnish, provide drugs, everything. After 6 months, everything will collapse because the community are still looking at them as if they are trained structures in their midst. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the point that you re-emphasized in this conversation, and that's community participation. Dr. Riwal Mohammed, your closing thoughts, pitfalls to avoid in implementation.
It's on the issue of data and data management, and that is one of the takeaway during the conference, that we should be, all our activities should be data driven so that surveys can be carried out to see how effective we are. And then the implementation of this conference is very important. Most of the time in Nigeria, we have a lot of plans, the implementation has been poor. So let's make sure that we follow the implementation of this 4-point agenda and make sure that we achieve and reduce the maternal mortality and infant mortality.
All right, Dr. Rewanu Mohammed, Chairman, Bauchi State Primary Health Care Development Agency, former Executive Secretary of the FCT Primary Health Care Board. We'd like to thank you very much for your contributions. And also, let me appreciate Dr. Isaac Abuja, a public health specialist here in the studio with us. Dr. Abuja, thank you as always. Always a pleasure to have you. Dr. Ewart, there, your immediate past acting Executive Secretary, FCT Primary Health Care Board. Thank you very much, Doctor. And Dr. Oluseweimi Ogbe, Technical Coordinator, Primary Health Care Summit 2020, also a Chief Medical Officer at the NPHCDA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, it was my pleasure.
All right, let's check the sports desk for sports stars.
The Super Eagles moved up 2 places to 38th in the latest ranking released by the Federation of International Football Association FIFA on Thursday. The 3-time African champions were ranked 32nd in the previous month. Nigeria Super Eagles also maintained 3rd position on the continent. Senegal maintained top position in Africa with the Atlas Lion of Morocco in the 2nd position. The Pharaohs of Egypt are 4th, while the Carthage Eagles of Tunisia are in 5th position. Meanwhile, Leicester City manager Brendan Rodgers says Super Eagles midfielder Wilfred Ndidi will not feature again this season due to knee injury. Rodgers disclosed this during his pre-match press conference on Thursday. Ndidi came off during Leicester City's second leg clash with Rennes in the UEFA Europa Conference League in mid-match and has since had surgery. In tennis, Naomi Osaka fought back to beat Belinda Bencic to set up a Miami Open final against incoming world number 1 Igor Swiatek of Poland. Japan's Osaka beat the Swiss 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 to reach her first final since she won the 2021 Australian Open.
Naomi Osaka is back in a final.
Second seed Swiatek, who won the Indian Wells title last week, beat American Jessica